Hello, Frugal fans. Once again, this is Captain Frugal, and I'm reviewing my stash to save you cash. And today, I'll be reviewing the Superior Foes of Spider-Man issue number 9. In this issue, the great crew is back again with writer Nick Spencer and artist Steve Lieber. This issue can be found as a back issue, a digital download, or in the second trade paperback for the Superior Foes of Spider-Man. Now, jumping in, this issue starts by giving the good old character Bullseye, Freddy, a little credit where credit's due. He picks up on Bullseye being on top of the building, throws a boomerang, and actually hits the bullet. And you have to admit, that is really sweet. But before we get a little bit more of the backstory on villains looking into why possibly is Boomerang being attacked by none other than Bullseye. And that's very funny. And then we cut back to seeing Bullseye and his date running away into a church, and we find out that that Boomerang is down to just one boomerang, so it's not looking good. But before we get to see any more, we cut back to Shocker and Silvermane for some more Odd Couple fun. They get a knock at the door, and we find out, yes, it's Hydra Man, his good old buddy Hydra Man, and he's over for movie night, yes, movie night. But Shocker doesn't want him to come in because he doesn't want him to see as the head of Silvermane. Well, anyway, Hydra Man decides to sort of force his way into the apartment because, remember, he is water. He can go through anything. And, of course, he destroys the TV when he hits it because he's water. Just great move, Hydra Man.
You son of a bitch.
And so, anyway, he gets into the apartment and finds out about Silvermane. Before we get to see more, we cut back to the church where we have Fred and Bullseye. We find out that Bullseye is after Fred for spreading lies and talking bad about him. Now, you have to admit, that's funny. This section is definitely hilarious. It's clear that Bullseye has the upper hand in this fight, and then Fred goes another step lower and tries to get Bullseye to consider killing his date instead of him. And trust me, she doesn't like that. She hits Fred, later on for payback. I mean, and then it even looks like there's a little bit of interest with Fred's date with Bullseye because, well, he's the alpha male in the situation. Before we can see more, we cut back to the Shocker and Hydra Man, where the Shocker says he never wanted to be a boss. He's always just wanted a job. He wanted to get money and get out of this crime thing. But Hydra Man says he's going to help him. But then Hydra Man runs off. I won't say how he does it, but I'll give you a hint. So clearly Hydra Man is up to something, probably going to be selling out the Shocker. Next we cut back and see that Fred and his date are tied up and captured, and the Owl walks in asking for his painting. So the Owl has captured him. Fred lies and said that he had no part in this theft. Remember, he was not with the gang at the time. He was on the elevator alone. So he tells the Owl that the Chameleon stole his identity to commit the crime instead of him. So we then find out that it was not even the real Bullseye, supposedly, that he was fighting. We find out instead of the real Bullseye, he was fighting a life model decoy. Damn! So yes, an LMD. I mean, really, how low can you go? You didn't only lose to a villain, you lost to a robotic copy of a villain. So then we see Fred on his way because he talked to the Owl to let him provide proof. He said, it wasn't me, it was the Chameleon, let me prove it. So the Owl buys into this and says, okay, I'm going to watch you, pretty much. So we see Fred on his way to the Chameleon to get proof. He meets up with the Chameleon and tricks him into changing into him for the proof he needs to show the Owl that, hey, see, it wasn't me, he copied me. All things were looking good for Fred, too, when suddenly we see Overdrive and the Beetle pulling up as if they've been in a fight, and they ask them to get in the school bus, and the school bus is riddled with ninja swords and things like that, as well as still kids in there, so it makes you go, what the heck just happened? Making you really want to know what happened next. All right, with that said, let's look at some of the pros and cons. First, we're going to start with the pros. This book had some action, and it was good. The humor in this book was great, and there was great characterization. The art, once again, continues to fit. This book just has all the pieces coming together. Just a fun story that makes you want to read more. All right, but let's look at some of the cons, which I really can't say there's any. The only con I can possibly tell you for this book is that it ends. It makes you almost wish it went on forever, which brings me to the final thing, the grade, which is nothing other I can give it than an A+. This book was phenomenal. Definitely worth a read. You should go out, at least check it out and trade. Go to the library and get it, buy it, whatever you can. This book is great. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe. Also, you can follow us and check us out at our podcast and other reviews and things at thehenchmenslounge.com. And if you want to follow me personally as well, you can follow my Twitter account at Captain Frugal.